This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Hello, and welcome to episode 37 of Cooking with Grief, the podcast equivalent of your every New Year's resolution. Well-intentioned, but ultimately a moral failing. I'm Chris, with a face for radio and a voice for the bin. And as ever, I'm joined on this odyssey of nothing with a man still troubled by the advent of what we long thought would be the future, but has transpired just to be a carousel of busyness and boringness. It's Chris!
Hello, and that is very true. I am still not yet over the fact that we're in the 20s.
I mean, this will come out sort of halfway through January. Are you still not coping with...
Not even slightly. I can guarantee I will get over this till the 30s, and then I'll have a whole new...
Your 30s or the decade 30s?
Both.
I suppose they will coincide, won't they?
No, I'll be in my 30s in this decade.
Yeah, but you'll also be in your 30s.
In the next decade, yeah.
Good! Here's how the podcast works. Each episode, each of us, two Chris's, bring two interesting and sometimes idiotic topics to share with one another. And by recording, editing and publishing this conversational waffle, you, the listener, the voyeuristic third party watching for the wardrobe while we go at it. So without any further verbal edging, let's get to the meat of it. Chris, what's your first topic?
Okay, Chris, so for my first topic, by the time this episode airs, we could well be sucked into World War III. Things going on, hotting up in the Middle East and whatnot. So, what do you think the maximum age is to be conscripted into the army?
I hope I'm older than it. I'd go 25?
Well, in America, it's 110. It's not official policy, but back in 2014, there was a bit... Somehow, do you remember the whole Millennium Bug, Y2K bug and all that? Mm-hmm. Which we thought was a problem in the year 2000.
Such simpler times to think that, the only thing to be worried about is a complete breakdown of all technology.
Yeah, well, somehow, because we managed to get through Y2K, pretty much unscathed, most people anyway. But somehow this error turned up in 2014. So in America, they have the, it's called selected service. Basically, all men, when you hit 18, you're supposed to sign up for the draft so that if there ever is a war, they need to draft people, you're registered. And I don't think they've used it since Vietnam, but, can't be too careful.
Yep,
They do like a good war.
Yeah, especially if there's an election coming up.
Yeah. So in Pennsylvania, though, for somehow a bug it goes through the list of births, and it's supposed to be everyone born in this year will be 18 today, send out the notices. But it was supposed to get people who were born in 1994 and accidentally sent out letters to people who were born in 1894.
Ooh, just one off.
Just a little bit wrong. Yeah. So people were getting letters for the grandfathers, great-grandfathers, people who are long since dead. And, the letters even say, you'll be subject to heavy fines and imprisonment if you do not sign up to the draft board.
What? Yeah, is there an option on there, you can get letters and you can request, a bigger font version?
Yeah. Gonna need a big font for this one. They started sending out notices to 27,000 dead.
Just in Pennsylvania.
Just in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
They did actually manage to correct it.
I thought you were going to say revive them.
We shall have an army. Yeah. Turns out that the US generals are actually White Walkers. They're just going to raise an army of the dead. No, they managed to stop it, but only after they'd already sent 14,000 letters. And, sorry, I got my maths a little bit wrong. The youngest of the men who was selected for the draft was 117.
Just when the 111-year-old thought he was safe.
Yes.
I mean, what job? I mean, let's say that, just to save face, they go, yeah, no, that's right. Anyone born after 1894, what jobs would you ask of a 117-year-old?
What, is he still alive in this, or is he a corpse?
No, he's hanging on just.
He's just hanging on.
But, the war machine rumbles on.
Yes. Probably nothing manual labour, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe something a bit more I don't know, maybe just send them overseas to just talk the enemy to death about how it was better in the good old days.
Because he literally remembers World War One.
Could be a lot worse. In my day, we didn't even have bulletproof vests.
You call that mustard gas? No, we don't.
It's just mustard. Goes on your sandwich, great granddad. The thing is, as well, though, it means that like a few people must have been living in the houses of their ancestors to have actually got the letter.
Oh,
so
right.
if you sent a letter to my great grand, I mean, I haven't updated where he lives. Like, I wouldn't get the letter to my house. I'd go to some random house in Scotland or something and be like, "Where are you?" I don't know. You get a letter from somebody you've never heard of before and be like, "The bloody hell is this?"
Yeah. Good news, we've managed to locate your great-great-grandfather. Downside, he's dead.
Yeah.
Also downside, he's been drafted into a war. Right, okay, that's a real mixed bag of emotions I've got to deal with. If you were drafted, what sort of role would you go for?
Depends what type of war.
The bad kind.
Yeah. Right. Well, but like, I mean, if it's like a World War III style war. Right, no, sorry. If it was like a Vietnamish war, or Afghanistan, whatever, one where it's sort of like one side's clearly superior, but the other side's dug in and...
Right, so we're invading Belarus, and they're having none of it.
Okay, that one, I'd want to be as far back as possible, like, I just want to be like I'd try and learn, I was going to say chef, but as if I could cook. But, I'd want to be as far away, because, as well stated, I'm a coward. And,
you want to be a general's, like, assistant.
Yeah.
Or a boot polisher.
Yeah, stay well back.
Yeah, in manufacturing, maybe.
Survive the war and tell everybody what a badass I was, obviously, and probably write a few best-selling, novels of my exploits that were obviously all classified, so nobody can even confirm nor deny that they took place.
Some say he did make that risotto for the general. Others say it was a quiche.
But if it was like a World War III style nuclear holocaust type thing, frontline infantry, because I just want to die as quick as possible. I don't want to live.
You want a quick ticket out of there. You don't want to become a ghoul.
No, I just want to straight away front row, front line,
vaporised,
charge the machine gun, die, not have to deal.
You make it sound like the two sides of the battlefield is like a sort of rank and file army. The other side is the bomb itself, and its only opening gambit is to explode. Men, chill! Okay, that is a strong opening move.
I just want to. I wouldn't want to be one of the ones at the back, watching the world slowly poison itself to death, and well, not even that slowly.
No.
Be the ones that, alright, well, we've long ran out of food, so now we're eating each other. Just charge.
Yeah.
Charge the light brigade. It's like...
just vaporised by quite a blinding light.
Yeah.
And then you just
gone.
Atoms. Yeah. No, I'm with you on that one. Mm-hmm. You don't want to...
Don't want to linger around for World War III.
How long does society need to rebuild itself for before it needs unsuccessful comedy podcasts? We've got zero skills in this game.
So about 5 years.
We're putting some fucking fallout shelter and they give us in charge of the in-bunker radio. It's like, oh no, everyone killed themselves. This is tedious.
Yeah, they might want to know some weird... In fact, we could be the ones who... how they always want to preserve human knowledge for the next generations and stuff. We could tell them bad half remembered. We think... So basically, once upon a time, there was Babylon. And I can kind of half remember that it was I think it was it was either 500 BC or 5,000 BC. It was BC.
And it fell in the sea, or no? Did it get taken over by the Mongolians?
Yeah, it was definitely the Aztecs.
Yeah, and then what do you mean we're fired?
By fired, you mean we've got to leave the bunker and take our...
We're just going to be stripped for parts. Going quite a lot of meat on this one. He'll do for a stew.
It's what blood type are they? Drain them. So yeah, that is my story of how old you can be to fight a war, apparently.
Right, okay, well my knees hurt now and I'm in my 20s, so I'm going to be a shit 70-year-old soldier, let alone 117.
Okay, and with that, Chris, on to you for your first topic of the episode.
Okay, well, for my first topic, I'll start off with a question, as I always do. Chris, do you cry easily?
Nah, not that easily.
A lot of you just burst into tears.
Cutting onions, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Watching films, no.
Yeah.
Genuinely sad events, yes, I will admit to the occasional weep if somebody's dead or something. But yeah, no, I wouldn't say that easily, to be honest.
But never in sort of confrontations. Some people were
oh yeah, no,
No.
No.
God, no.
God, no.
Yeah.
I'm a man.
Aye, and we'll get to that. So this week I read about the science of tears, why they happen, and how different sort of tears are different. Obviously, because they're different tears. What I meant was how, chemically they're different.
Well, for different, emotions.
Yeah. Right, so the brain is constantly trying to maintain emotional equilibrium. So when any emotion, which is just expression of an elevated chemical level in your brain, spikes, it tries to balance it out. If one emotion rockets up, that chemical gets flagged and signals the tear duct to open as a way of releasing that emotion bundled up in tears. And that's why we experience emotional stability after crying, and also why we can't really feel more than one emotion while crying.
That's not entirely true. Can I tell you a story?
Please do.
So once, our mutual doctor friend, I was annoying him, and he was holding the ball at the time, and I was just winding him up about something. And he went to make like he was going to throw the ball on my face, because I was about 5 feet away from him or something. He went like he's going to throw a ball on my face, so I instinctively covered my face up. He lowered his aim and hit me in the crotch. I dropped to the floor. I was in tears from the pain, but I couldn't stop laughing because the idea of just getting hit in the crotch with a ball is just funny. Man
getting hit by a football. Yeah,
it's just timeless humour. So I was on the floor in tears whilst laughing and hilarious.
And probably a bit angry as well. So there was.
I don't even know if I was. I probably deserved it.
So,
but yeah, it was so painful, but yet just the wider thing of just man being hit by a football in the groin is just timeless comedy.
Okay, so maybe.
But yeah, that's
but generally speaking, if you get bad news, it sort of blinkers everything else.
Yes,
that's sort of more what I meant, not you being amused by the pain of your own crotch. But it's a nice thought though to when people cry with laughter, that it's sort of nice that to know that there's so much happiness in them that their body literally can't contain it and it's got to come out.
Yeah, that's true.
Or pessimistically, it's horrible to know that sometimes the body can contain so much grief and heartbreak that it has to pour it out of your eyes. But, depending on whether you're an optimist or a pessimist. But the interesting thing, and the sort of meat of my topic, is that different emotions having different chemical bases look different under an electron microscope. To get the most out of this topic, you might need to Google what tears look under a microscope, so I'll try my best to sort of describe them in an audio format. But obviously happy tears, through laughter or, what do people like? A surprise party.
Oh, I hate that.
Okay, that's why I said people. They look different to sad tears or frustrated tears or angry tears or whatever. Grief tears look like an aerial view of sparse farmland, a sort of map almost.
Well, like a crisscross type. What do you...
It's sort
like
of
squares or...
Yeah, almost. It's sort of like an aerial view of sort of fields and a few barnyards.
Okay.
That sort of thing. Laughing tears look like melting ice cubes, and tears from cutting onions, as you mentioned before, look like patterns of leaves. And yes, those are the three main emotions: grief, laughter, and onions. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I sort of thought tears were fairly uniform. But
so do they contain different chemicals then?
Yes,
because
they're just
your brain's trying to get this out of my head.
Yeah, just because it's constantly trying to sort of even things out. So it goes, right, we've got too much of happy. Pour all the happy into, send it to the eye ducts and squeeze it out.
Okay.
Well, that's quite cool.
That is interesting.
And I thought it would lead to a wider conversation, as you sort of said in your initial answer, the sort of beating the chest, man doesn't cry.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, I think it's not a complaint, but a maintained belief that men in the West tend to bottle their emotions up and don't cry, and it might be beneficial to them emotionally to do so. But I rarely feel the need to cry. I don't feel like I'm bottling anything up because I just don't need to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you're just bragging about a happy life you're having.
Well, yeah, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I would say there's also a pressure on people to not cry in situations where they probably would want to, in terms of
yeah, there's sort of a confrontation at work or
more just a lot of people won't even cry at a funeral or whatever. There is a pressure. What's weird is the Greeks were all about crying.
Oh, yeah.
Greeks were
Achilles absolutely bawled his eyes out.
Yeah, all the time.
At Thingy's funeral.
Minor inconveniences. They were absolute tears. Alexander the Great is no, you can't have a steak for dinner tonight. He's an absolutely just weep for days.
He wept salt tears because there are no more worlds to conquer.
Exactly. So I don't know. It's just a very stiff upper lip thing, isn't it?
I don't know if it's inherently British, but there is still that echo of the sentiment that emotions somehow make you weaker, which I think is bollocks.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely in the culture that emotion is something done privately, alone, and once in a lifetime. So don't squander it on something trivial like your child dying. You know what I mean?
I'm like a massive hypocrite because I'm like, yeah, I mean, men should be able to get their emotions out and men should be able to cry whatever. And then it's like, anything happens to me, I'm like, I'm not showing emotion in front of anybody ever.
Yeah, and I don't know whether that...
Just channeling through a comedy podcast instead.
This is our cry for help, if nothing else.
The grief was actually a bit of a Freudian slip. we just thought it was funny, but I mean, it was actually a little bit of a...
We're going to call it Cooking with Chris. At uni, one of my housemates had scheduled cries. So she'd put it in a diary,
She would.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every 2 weeks, she'd have a nice cry, on demand, and that would just sort of emotionally reset her for the week. Maybe Sunday night, have a nice bath, have your tea, get your bag ready for school, for uni the next day, and just have a cry.
That's
insane.
Sounds like a psychopath. Now I shall schedule in my human emotions. Tomorrow I will smile. I don't know why she's Austrian in this.
It does. Austrian makes sense to me, though. Now is the time for levity, and now is the time for lacrimation.
Oh, what a word.
Thanks.
I'm glad you managed to get that into this. Not used enough lacrimation.
Well, maybe we do need to lacrimate more.
Yeah, or at least say it more.
Yeah, I'm not crying, I'm lacrimating. Can you do that in public? You can, and you can watch. So that's the end of my first topic. Chris, what have you got for your second?
Alright, well, on the subject of crying, how do you find going to the dentist?
No, I'm generally pretty okay with it. I'm not terrified of it like some people are.
Yeah, some people have real bad things going on.
It's unpleasant, but broadly fine.
Okay, well, that's alright then, because I'm going to talk to you about a man who was once described as a menace to the dignity of the profession by the American Dental Association.
I think it's one of our reviews, isn't it? Disgrace of the podcast community.
So he's a man who was born Edgar Parker, but he went under the stage name of Painless Parker. Yeah, so he's born Edgar, and he became a dentist in the usual way, went to medical school or dental college, whatever, and became it. But then, unfortunately, he had 6 weeks without getting a single patient, and so, he's wondering how he's going to get any money from this. Yeah. So he hired one of P.T. Barnum, as in the Greatest
Circus,
Showman. Yeah. Circus and freak show extraordinaire. He got one of his ex-managers to help him make a travelling dentist show.
Right.
So just for a bit of background, this was in 19th century America. So he's hired P.T. Barnum's ex-manager, and he's got the idea is they created the Parker Dental Circus, which is a travelling medical, you travel around with his dental...
Yeah, it's a travelling dentist.
Yeah.
Dentist.
But what they do is they roll up in a town, they hired a band, which would then play music, and people would come out, and then they'd put the chair out in the middle of the crowd and do everything like a production. But people would, actual patients.
Oh, right, okay.
So he was actually, so they'd get people to come up and be like, who's got bad teeth? All right, give me $50, whatever, sorry. It's a lot.
Well, a lot of money,
yeah. No, let me tell you. 50 cents for a teeth extraction. But he gave them whiskey or cocaine to numb the pain.
Great days. Well, those are your options.
Yeah.
Whiskey or cocaine? I'm on a diet, so it'll be the cocaine and excellent.
Yeah. And like I say, apparently the band also was used to hide the moans and cries of the patients whilst he was ripping the teeth out.
1, 2, 3, 4!
Yeah, he claimed to have once in one day pulled 357 teeth, and he turned them all into a necklace and used to wear that as part of his...
That's a bit macabre.
Yeah. What's great though is, I said he travelled under the name Painless Parker.
Mm.
Well, they tried to sue him for false advertisement because he couldn't prove that it was actually, cocaine and whiskey can only do so much to numb pain. So he legally changed his name to Painless to get out.
I thought you were going to say So, oh no, I'm called that because there's no bread featured in the show.
Yeah, it's French.
Painless Parker, of course.
I do love that. It's like, hey, this is false advertising. You're not Painless Parker. It's painless. You're ripping people's teams out. Getting screwed me. Oh no, I am Painless Parker.
It's a family name.
It's like, oh shit, he's got this hair. So yeah, he changed his name from Edgar to Painless, and then yeah,
like a fucking modern day wrestler. Welcome, Painless Parker. It sounds successful.
Yeah, well, it was really successful. By the end of it, he established a business. He outsourced his traveling circus, and it ended up making $3 million a year. Which I'm not sure if that's in today's money or...
I'm sure that's been adjusted.
I feel like it must be adjusted because that would have been crazy. That, I don't know what they adjusted it. I was going to guess. I was just going to pluck a big figure out of the air and be like, that's £1 trillion.
Because then it would be like Rockefeller. Painless Parker.
Yeah.
Welcome to Painless Parker Plaza.
Yeah, you're right, actually. Yeah, definitely. A massive tooth-shaped building in the middle of Manhattan.
Yeah. He would have fucking owned the railways as well. All the carriages shaped like teeth. and yet, if someone came along and did that on, I don't know, Britain's Got Talent, he'd go out in the first round.
Well, imagine that. Simon Cowell, come sit here. Here's some cocaine. I do just love, like I say, you can't do that now. Like, back in the day, it's just like...
What bloody PC gone mad? You can't even travel around with a band ripping people's teeth out.
Well, I mean...
Bloody liberals.
Nowadays, if you got a struggling business or whatever, you can't just be like, what, fuck it, we're going to go round and...
Make a circus out of
it. No one turn up. I mean... What else could you do? Travelling circumcisions.
The mobile Moya.
Moyomobile.
Quick!
Oh, man. Yeah, well...
fry him up. He sells them like poke scratchings after the gig.
Ooh, gross.
Gets his own brand of cereal. These Cheerios? Nope. There's nothing cheery about them.
Not at all. Yeah, I wonder what other things could you do? You just couldn't. Just imagine, if you heard music in a band outside, now you wouldn't go and see what was going on. You'd probably be like, oh, fuck it. I check on Twitter to see if it was
or make a noise complaint.
Yeah. Don't go there and then just be like, oh, well, this guy looks legit. Pulling teeth out.
Yeah, it's weird, except in very touristy areas of major cities, there are very few spontaneous crowd gatherings. Mm-hmm. Unless there's a sort of far right rally going on, or someone's had a heart attack.
Yeah,
and even then they tend to disperse it. But there's no travelling anything.
Travelling circus, no. Well, travelling circus is gone. In fact, circling back to P.T. Barnum, that ended just a couple of years ago. Finally closed its doors after about 100 years because. Not that money and not as much money in travelling circuses anymore.
Yeah, no one wants to see a monkey on a unicycle anymore.
No, they don't.
Bloody snowflakes. Oh, we don't like you torturing elephants. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, they look so sad. I feel uncomfortable being here.
Alright, here's my cynical take on circuses and stuff. It actually ties in quite nicely with Painless Parker. We, as people, secretly kind of want to see things go wrong. As in, we watch a lion tamer or a trapeze artist or whatever, and we're just a little bit kind of in the back of your mind are like, I want to see the lion go wild, or I want to see the person fall off the trapeze. And the reason I say that is because otherwise they do it on the ground. Otherwise nobody would care that they're doing it. Because they always add to the spectacle by being like, we're going to do it 50 foot up with no nets.
So you're saying that the only way you can justify any level of peril is the inherent
danger.
Yeah.
That
some people
could go wrong.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, we don't, watching somebody in a trapeze is objectively impressive. When they do a flip from one trapeze to another. That is objectively an amazing piece of skill and
human achievement, yeah.
It's ridiculous when you watch it. It's how the hell do you even practice that without dying?
I can't even put my shoes on,
it's amazing.
Like grunting.
And really, if nobody wanted to slightly, just in the back of the head, see it, the peril and the spectacle of it could go wrong and they could die, they do all of them, 5 feet off the ground, with a nice net or a lot of padding or something, so there was no chance of them getting hurt. Or, they'd have, if they're doing tightrope walking, they could do it with a harness, so if they fell, they wouldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, because they don't just want to see someone high up on the ground. Yeah, I think you're right, but people won't.
You lion tame. You don't tame, a house cat.
Or a worm.
Yeah. Because that's not impressive. Nobody wants to see,
So you're saying that everyone that goes to SeaWorld or whatever, secretly, they'll never admit it, but
secretly want to see Shamu go fucking wild.
Again, they want to be at one, they've got a 25% chance of seeing someone get brutalised by a whale. They're hoping for that lucky quarter.
Yeah. Also, just on a side note, is who the hell thought, because everyone gets, surprised about, not surprised, but, because every now and again, a killer whale does kill some, a trainer or whatever, and everyone's like, how could this happen? It's the clues in the names. You tried to tame something that we literally, the first humans that saw it went, that's a fucking killer.
Yeah, it's going to kill someone every once in a while. The clues in the name.
Oh, and on that note, I don't think we can go any further.
No, that was the podcast equivalent of me falling from the trapeze. At least one of my teeth came out.
Okay, Chris, and so with that, what's your final topic for the episode?
Okay, well, I'm going to start off with a question. When you board your own catchphrase, they don't do that on the Big Bang Theory. They don't go bazinga. You don't have to say bazinga again. Also, what kind of catchphrase is? I'll ask you a question, as I always do. All right, here's a new catchphrase.
Bazinga.
Bazinga, Chris. How do you think you'd cope in a natural disaster?
Terribly.
Have you ever been? What's the scariest, natural thing
natural disaster that I've been caught up in?
Yeah. A light drizzle.
Yeah, no.
In Macclesfield.
No, nothing too bad, but I was on holiday once when it wasn't quite a hurricane. It was just a step below the threshold where it becomes a hurricane, tropical storm blowed in. And we knew we were safe and everything, but the visibility, because there's so much rain and wind going, that is crazy watching. You could see all the way across this, you could see for miles or whatever, and then all of a sudden you can only see a few feet, and winds howling, you can hear everything blowing around, but it wasn't, you knew, as long as you're indoors and stuff, it was safe. You weren't worried about the building blowing down. That's probably the worst thing. When
something's a mild case of something that you've not experienced before, so you start to panic a bit, but then immediately can't buy everyone else just going about your day. So I was in Taiwan, and there was, there were very minor earthquakes a lot of the time, and we're just at my friend's house, and then the building started to shake. I'm like, fuck, this is it. And he hadn't even looked up from the, his book or whatever. And he's like, oh no, this happens at least once a week. And it's just okay. You do know buildings aren't meant to shake like that. That's very strange. But I asked that because this week I read about Tsunami Stones.
Tsunami what, sorry?
Tsunami Stones.
Okay.
And it's not my wrestling alter ego. I know, just huge balls. I don't know. The stones of a tsunami. I don't know.
What a gimmick.
Can you fight? No, but he's got massive bollocks. So these are stone structures placed around the northeast coast of Japan. Obviously, they get tsunamis a lot. And they're essentially sort of large stone tablets that show where the water came up to at that last tsunami.
Okay.
And they're meant to encourage people to not build their homes below that point.
Okay.
So it's a sort of a demarcated zone that has been hit before.
Mm-hmm.
But some of them are over 600 years old, so it's as much cultural as sort of, I suppose the modern would just be a signpost. But you get the sort of...
Good job they made out something that lasts,
Well,
not like you say, a signpost.
We'll bake a cake, and the cake will signify.
What I mean is the modern equivalent of a signpost saying, warning, tsunami came to here. The next time a tsunami came, would just get washed away.
Oh, I see what you mean. I thought you meant 600 years ago they went, right, we'll fucking...
make a perishable good to warn people.
Right, this dog will stay exactly where it was. As long as the dog stays, we're fine. But the fact that they're so old means that humans definitely adapt to, wherever, to sort of live with almost constant ecological disaster, which I think we're going to see more and more of going forward. One particular example, so there's a tsunami struck the coastal village of Anayoshi in 1933, and after it receded, survivors moved the entire town uphill, because it's all wooden structures.
Oh, okay.
The ones that survived, they sort of, literally transplanted it further up the hill. And placed the Tsunami Stones at the point where the water flooded. And the stones were engraved with messages that said, like, do not build your homes below this point.
Yeah.
And they adhered to it ever since. And when, in 2011, Japan had that awful, worse than usual tsunami.
Yeah.
And, it devastated so much of Japan, the entire village of Anayoshi survived.
Oh, because it was still higher than...
It was still higher than the previous thing. So I guess they don't build it just up to the stone and not further. They go, all right, this is...
Let's give it a bit of bit of wiggle room to be...
a cake's worth.
Yeah.
In case we want to update it. But I don't know, I thought that was interesting. And I thought it was interesting that it's lasted so long and it's something you just learn to...
What's interesting is, because you were saying they've stood the test of time and people still adhere to them, is read about, obviously we have nuclear power plants and stuff now, such as the one that got wiped out
in Fukushima,
in that tsunami. But and obviously they generate waste. And we've still not really come up with a good idea of what to do with nuclear waste yet. Like I said, they're working on new ones that actually reuse the waste and then it comes out less, still deadly, but not quite as deadly.
Yeah.
But at the moment, we've got shitloads of barrels of radioactive waste that will stay radioactive for thousands and thousands of years. And at the moment, they literally turn it into glass. They heat it up so much or whatever, it turns into a glass thing and it makes it so it won't leak and stuff. And put it in barrels and then they fit the barrels in lead, lime things, stick them underground. And the problem is people are worried now that obviously it will last for so many thousands of years that if you just put a written warning in English, say, there's no guarantee that English will be spoken or in any sort of recognisable form.
Assuming, it's sort of humans 2.0, you mean?
Yeah. People will come back, the way English from 1,000 years ago, or English wasn't a thing 10,000 years ago, but these barrels will still be radioactive in 10,000 years. And, nobody knows what could happen. As you say, there could be some sort of, extinction event or could not be. But, people are worried. And they're talking about what type of... They're trying to find a universal sign to try and warn people that this is a dangerous area. Because you can't write a written
so you've got to use, pictograms, because it's sort of the same thing. And you've got to... I mean, they have got written languages as well.
Yeah, but they've got to try and think, if the written doesn't work, because at the moment, obviously, we got the radiation symbol. We all know what that means because we see it all the time and people say that's a
and we see it in a context that makes sense.
If you just saw that sign, you'd have absolutely no idea what three triangle-y things with a circle in the middle would actually, you would be like, oh, obviously that means... they're trying to find...
It means there's a wind turbine nearby.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're trying to find, universal symbols of danger. Something that, just instinctively to humans, you look at a sign or something. So they're trying to go for, spiky things or stuff.
Because I saw even the discussion that, using lots of red, as which we associate with lots of things, but including danger, that in 10,000 years, red might not have that connotation. Because although it's evolutionary, it's not, reliable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Red has meant lots of things to, so even that... So I think one of the, there's spikes, there's skulls.
Things that we're trying to, across cultures, instinctively look at and say...
Bad place.
There's not good things behind here. And, again, your Tsunami Stones, whatever it is, has to last. So they can't just bake a cake with all these symbols on, like a red cake.
Okay, you've given me now several examples of why my idea of a cake wouldn't work. You don't need to press it on, but I do agree that something like stone, I mean, even rock cakes aren't going to last more than 50 years.
No.
It's as sea level changes, then those stones will then become,
obsolete.
Yeah, but then future, civilizations maybe might find them and get to translate it and says, don't build your homes below this point. I don't know, I think it's cool to...
Yeah, no, it is very interesting, but like I say, it's just trying to make stuff last, and like I say, I don't know how much Japanese has changed over 600 years.
Probably less than English.
Really?
I would have thought so. But...
Yeah, whereas I say English, well, 600 years ago, sort of somewhat recognisable. But like, if you ever read like Beowulf, and if you look at it in its original thing, it's like, this is the oldest English English text or whatever. You're looking at it, it's like, English? There are letters here that we do not even have. How is this English? You just want something that says like, no go here.
But in pictogram form, And so that brings us to the end of another sojourn into the world of the wacky and unexpected. Thank you for listening to this, episode 37 of Cooking with Grief. We'll be back in a fortnight for brand new topics to distract you from the monotony of the person you've chosen to become. In the meantime, make sure to follow us on Twitter at Cooking with Grief, with no G on cooking, for jokes, humorous takes on current events, and, if you're lucky, more than just a little bit of existential despair. If you'd like to get in touch with us, either with a suggestion for a topic, or even just feedback that can't be summarised in a single tweet, you can email us at cookingwithgrief@gmail.com. And most importantly of all, please, if you know someone who you think would enjoy our carefully balanced blend of knowledge and nonsense, please recommend us to a friend, a family member, a new lover, an old enemy, a lonely neighbour, or a weird co-worker.
Oh, and one other thing is also just leave a review on iTunes if you could, please, because that also really helps the podcast to grow.
Yeah, it helps other people find us, and
people who aren't your weird neighbours or new lovers.
Yeah, do that instead of talking to your neighbours, because really, who does that? So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
And we'll see you again next time. We'd like to thank Big Heads Media for
looking after us,
being our podcast parents. And now you're about to listen to the trailer for another podcast on Big Heads Media, which we hope you'll enjoy and check out.
Bye.
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 Weird.
Did you know that a man once jumped into a bulletproof window so much that he busted it out of the frame and fell to his death? I do. Hey, I'm Nicholas Howe, and I made an improvised comedy storytelling podcast about this death and many others. Using a multiverse of me's as the catalyst, I explore the various ways people have died. I also have special guests on and freak them out about how dangerous the world is. Did you know lakes can explode? You do now. Listen to the How Will I Die podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and follow us on Twitter at HWIDIEPOD.